A former NFL quarterback has come out and blamed Caleb Williams for taking the majority of sacks that he took in 2024, plus questioned his leadership. We're going to react to it here on Chicago Bears Now. My name is Harrison Graham. Matt Hasselbeck joined the herd with Colin Cowherd, and we'll talk about the sacks part of this first. He said, I like to give quarterbacks 2 to 3 things to work on from one year to the next. Sacks would be number one with Caleb. Sacks hurt your team, they hurt your offensive line and your morale. Sacks are an absolute killer. If we were assigning blame on why there were so many sacks last year in Chicago, the majority of the sacks were not the fault of the offensive line. They were the fault of the young quarterback. He needs to play more on time. That's an area he needs to improve on. I would say there is some truth to this, and certainly certain things are true. Like in certain situations, he does need to learn to play on time, and I think playing in a better offense in a scheme that should just generate open receivers quicker should help. But to claim that the majority of sacks that Caleb Williams took were on just the quarterback, it's a subjective stat. I don't think it's really accurate. Now, PFF, who, again, not the end-all, be-all, but they do like heavy data-driven analytics here. Grim Manungai, great Twitter name, and there's a photo that's attached to this that shows the data from PFF. But he said he did create a lot of sacks, but the statistics are already out there. The total amount of sacks weren't mostly on him, as Hasselbeck suggests. PFF has him at a fault of 17 of 68 sacks. Yes, the most in the league, but 17 is not the most of the 68. Is not most of 68. And there's a list, and Caleb did create the most sacks at 17, but like Mahomes was at 16 and actually had a higher percentage. Like good quarterbacks are high up there. I think Burrow was high up there too. Look, I think a couple things can be true. Number one, whether the number 17, 25, 30, I actually looked recently the other day at all his sacks from last year, and I didn't tally every single one, but it felt like anywhere from a third to a half of them were probably on Caleb, because sometimes it's hard to say. It's like, okay, a guy misses his block, and sure, he probably could have thrown it away, but, like, is that on the quarterback or is that on the right guard? So, like, is that a combo? Like, you could blame, you pie chart it 50-50. It's hard to say. There's definitely cases last year where Caleb Williams holds the ball too long, tries to go into hero mode, and ends up taking a sack instead of, taking a check down or throwing the ball away. That is absolutely true. But I think it's also true that to say the majority, which would be 35 plus, because that would be over 50%, I think that's a stretch. I think the Bears showed with their actions that they were not pleased with their offensive line play last year, right? I mean, we've beat this down all off season long. Sure, part of this is just to give Caleb more time, and even if you're going to lean into that play style of him holding the ball longer, you need better offensive linemen. Yeah, that's part of it, but also part of it is just how many times last year it's like, oh, free rusher, the right guard missed. So you go from Tevin Jenkins and backups to Joe Thuney. You say goodbye to Coleman Shelton and sign Drew Dahlman. And you ditch the Nate Davis disaster, Matt Pryor fill in for Jonah Jackson. I don't think you do that if a vast majority of sacks were solely on the quarterback. I just don't believe that. Like, sure, you're going to help your young guy out regardless, but I think a combination of things can be true. At times, he's got to understand that a net zero play is better than a negative play, but at the same time, I think we can all acknowledge that not just the players themselves on the offensive line, but the scheme was just bad. A lot of pre-snap penalties, a lot of guys who seemed to be blocking the wrong guy. Maybe some of that was actually on Caleb not setting the protections properly, but Drew Dahlman's going to set the protections now. They put too much on Caleb's plate in that regard last year. So I think it's a reach from Hasselbeck to put a heavy part of the blame on Caleb. Does he carry some? Absolutely. There's no question about that. We've broken that down, but to solely say it was on him, I think that's unfair. In addition to the interior upgrades, you go add another body in Ozzie Trapillo in the draft to be in the mix at left tackle as well. So the Bears have showed you with their actions that, yeah, I'm sure there's discussions behind the scenes of getting the ball out quicker at times, but also, this offensive line just wasn't that good last year. It's okay to say. and that's why they've invested a ton of money. And now they're, I think, 5th in the NFL in offensive line spending. So that's a good place to be. You feel a lot better about this group, regardless of who the left tackle is, Braxton Jones, Ozzie Trapillo, Kron Amagaji, than what you trotted out there last year. And look, let's be honest. Caleb Williams will probably never be one of the lower sack guys in the league. Part of it is just how he plays. Like, you think of guys in recent years who have been really good in the league, but also have taken a lot of sacks. Guys like Joe Burrow, Deshaun Watson before he became a bad player, took a lot of sacks. He holds the ball on longer. He's not a Jared Goff. He's not a Tua Tagovailoa who these guys throw with a ton of anticipation and quickness because A, they're not that mobile, and B, that's just their play style. It's kind of snap and go. Now, obviously, when you mention Jared Goff, well, that's where Ben Johnson's coming from, but Ben Johnson said from day one, you're not running just the Lions offense. And also, I think what Ben Johnson's going to do is he's going to create more generated completions. What does that mean? Scheme guys open, quick slants, rub routes, and just get him into a rhythm early and then allow him to freelance and play his game more. There's a balance to be had. And my goal for this year for Caleb Williams is less than 43 sacks. How did I come up with that number? If Caleb Williams plays all 17 games, and you take 2.5 sacks per game, because that's the number I've set. 2.5 sacks per game on average or less. That's 42.5. So if he's less than 43, that means he's taken less than 2.5 sacks per game on average. That's a good number. If he's somewhere in the mid-high 30s to the low 40s, I think that's fine with his play style, because him holding the ball longer at times is going to lead to some big plays. Yeah, sometimes it might lead to a frustrating sack, and that number on self-inflicted sacks should go from 17 to 10. Like, let's cut that down a little bit. Let's embrace throwing the ball out of bounds at times, throwing the check down. Those are all things he's going to have to improve at. But I also don't want him to be a guy that only gets sacked 10 times, because that probably means he's either getting back to the check down too quickly and they're not generating enough explosive plays. So let's be somewhere in the middle, lean into his play style a bit, but also, hey, let's generate some easy completions, because I think that's something Shane Waldron really failed to do, is how many times did it feel like the ball was snapped and within a couple of seconds there's a good chunk play on just a design of the offensive play. Didn't feel like that happened much at all, other than maybe that 2-game stretch between Carolina and Jacksonville. All right, what was the bigger issue for the amount of sacks in 2024? C for Caleb, O for O-line. You could add coaching, scheme, S for scheme as well. I think it's a combination of it all, but I do think, especially with Caleb being a rookie, I think the scheme and the O-line were the two bigger issues, while still acknowledging that Caleb took too many as well. Let's add this stat in there as well. Longest time to throw. So that means from the second the ball is snapped till the ball is out of your hands. You know who's number one in the league? Lamar Jackson. He's won a couple of MVPs, could have won it last year. Now, he's as elusive as it gets. He runs around. Caleb's not like that. Can't run around quite like that. But 3.14 seconds, that's a significant amount of time. Jalen Hurts, Sam Darnold, who had a really good year, which it will make things interesting for producer Colin's Seahawks this year if their O-line can protect long enough. C.J. Stroud, time to throw almost 3 seconds. Also had a poor offensive line. Brock Purdy, Justin Herbert, by the way. Bo Nix, who everybody's like, oh yeah, Bo Nix plays like Drew Brees. Just snap, get the ball. Not really. not according to the data. Josh Allen, Jordan Love. You know what all these guys have in common, by the way? They're all pretty damn good. All these guys were pretty damn good last year. I mean, historically, Darnold hasn't been, but last year he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. So, again, I don't want this to be a thing where he's known. And then, by the way, that was for qualified. Like, Justin Fields is high on that list, but he only started 6 games. Deshaun Watson, who I mentioned earlier, he was high, but he only started a few games for the injury. That's for guys who started at least, I think, 13 games. Look, it's all about finding a balance. If Ben Johnson is who we think he is, in his ability to adapt and design and play call and scheme, and if Caleb Williams is who we think he is as a talent, then this will work, and this offense will be good. May not be good right out of the gate, week 1, but these two guys are very talented at what they do, and there's a lot of talent around them, and they beefed up the offensive line, and they got playmakers everywhere. So, Matt Hasselbeck was one of those guys who he had to play on time. Why? Because not that good of an athlete, not that good of an arm. Caleb's a tremendous athlete, has a tremendous arm. So he is going to freelance at times and hold the ball and generate bigger plays. And yeah, there's going to be some negative plays in there. It's about minimizing those, but not eliminating that out of his game. Get yourself a Caleb Williams jersey for just $100. It's an awesome deal. Usually these are more than $120. Chatsports.com/Caleb jersey. Link is in the comments and in the description of this video. Click and shop today and pick one up right now. Okay, let's get to the body language part of this, the leadership. Matt Hasselbeck said, number 2 for me would probably be overall leadership. We're looking at you, body language. That bothers me, how he handled that last year. Well, a couple things. Number 1, this has been addressed. Ben Johnson said that, I can't remember if he said it, Caleb said it too, I'm not sure, but this has been publicly talked about, where when they did the season review, when Ben sat down with Caleb, he pointed out a couple of times, like, hey, like, you're the quarterback, face of the team. Like, you know, when you're laying down a little bit longer after taking a big hit or a sack or on the bench, you know, that one game he laid down after he got just absolutely clobbered. I think that was Minnesota when Karan Amagaji just got destroyed. You know, we gotta be better there. And I totally understand, totally agree. I also think that this idea, and I addressed this a couple months ago when someone else said this, I think this has been exaggerated. I think that the couple of times it was noticeable, it was kind of really noticeable. It's kind of like when, I don't know, I'll give a baseball analogy, when you have a wild pitcher who's really good, but his misses are really bad, and you're like, oh my God, this guy stinks. It's like, no, his misses are just bad. Like, oh, it's 6 feet outside instead of a foot. It's like, well, he's also throwing 102 with movement. So, yeah, he's going to miss every once in a while, and it might be ugly, but it doesn't happen that often. That's kind of what I would say. There were a handful of times last year where it's like, man, he's getting clobbered, but you still need to get up quicker. Man on the sideline, shoulders are shrugging a little bit. He's also a rookie who handled a lot of shit last year. I thought Caleb dealt with 2024 pretty well, especially considering he was a rookie on a bad team, a poorly coached team. That's my take on it. I think overall, I was pretty pleased. And then going to the podium week after week, answering the questions, taking the bullets. Like, I think all in all, he did pretty darn well representing this team as the face of the franchise, being the number 1 overall pick, dealing with all of this. 2 different head coaches in Matt Eberflus, Thomas Brown. 2 different play callers in Shane Waldron and then Thomas Brown. 3 different offensive coordinators in Shane Waldron, Thomas Brown. Thomas Brown was still calling the plays, but Chris Beatty was installing game plans once Matt Eberflus was fired. He lost 10 games in a row. Being a part of that, that's a lot to deal with after they started 4-2. And then the beating he took, 68 sacks, many more hits. He added all up, well over 100 hits last year. And he still went out there. He played 17 games, showed some highs, certainly had some lows, but held his own. Had a pretty decent rookie season with a lot of adversity that he dealt with. Not going to sit here and act like it was perfect, not absolving him of certain things. There's a reason Ben Johnson sat him down. I was like, hey, let's cut this out. Let's do this. Let's do that. Like, Ben Johnson is not lowering the standard for anyone. And that's making me excited. It should make Bears fans excited as well. I'm just saying, people act like this was some embarrassing, disastrous season for Caleb Williams. It was embarrassing for the Bears. It was embarrassing for Matt Eberflus and Shane Waldron, but Caleb went out there, did his thing, was pretty damn clutch in a lot of games, and coaching and teammates failed him at times. And late in Detroit, first game against Green Bay, we all know what happened against Washington. Those are games that you had, and, you know, all of a sudden you're an 8-9 team, and it looks a lot different. But, you know, that was then. This is now full steam ahead, less than 3 weeks away from training camp. Doesn't mean this year's going to go smooth sailing, but I do think there are building blocks to build upon here in 2025. Do you believe in Caleb? Are you a Caleb Williams stan still? Type B for believe or D for don't. I do, until I'm given a lot of evidence to suggest otherwise. Again, people act like this is like a Bryce Young rookie season. Like, no, like he did some good things. Let's see how it looks. The better offensive line and a much better coaching staff. All right, my name is Harrison Graham. Thanks to everybody who tuned into this show. We will see you guys next time. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Live show tomorrow, 4 o'clock Central Time. We'll probably have an episode up in the morning as well. So lots to come. Bear down.